So that's what we're starting off with in the spirit of the season, all right? And we have joining us this morning, Imam Raji Abdul Ghaniya is the Secretary, Nasfat Mission Board. He's an Islamic scholar and author, public speaker, teacher, and educationist. As you can see, he joins us right here in our Lagos studio. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You know, we started with the usual greetings, and I almost didn't have anyone because my colleagues had picked one, you know, Barkat Salah,
absolutely,
Eid Kabir, and the rest. But something hit me, which I just want to clear.
Okay.
So there's Eid Al-ADHA, and in Nigeria we call it Eid Al-Kabir. It's the same thing, but I see that in Nigeria it's called Eid Al-Kabir. Why is it different in Nigeria?
Okay, it's actually not different. In Nigeria, we also call it Eid Al-ADHA. Let me start by appreciating you for inviting me. Thank you very much. Whether you call it Eid Al-Kabir, it's actually Al-Eid Al-Kabir, because it's an Arabic term. Al-Eid Al-Kabir means the major festival. You know, we Muslims have two festivals. Yeah. We have one that we celebrate the conclusion of Ramadan fast. We see that one as a minor festival. Very important, there's no doubt about that. But this particular one, because we slaughter rams. And then this also brings about the commemoration of a lot of events in human history. And then it also marks the conclusion of Hajj. We have our brothers and sisters in Mecca now who are performing Hajj. So because of that major event, Hajj, a very important pillar of Islam, that this particular festival marks, so we call it a major festival. So that's what Al-Eid Al-Kabir means, or whether you call it Eid Al-Kabir or Al-Eid Al-Kabir, that's what it means. We also call it Eid Al-ADHA because we slaughter rams, we slaughter camels, based on what you can afford. So whether you call it Eid Al-Kabir or Eid Al-ADHA, it is the same festival. It is the
same festival. Okay, just in case you're outside the country and you know it as Eid Al-ADHA and you're wondering why are Nigerians calling it Eid Al-Kabir, it is the same
festival.
The elephant in the room from that report we saw was a lot of Nigerians, you know, complaining about the reality of things. Amidst the festivities, the celebration, the commemoration, is the financial aspect of it. A lot of people wanting to buy rams, goat, and all of that. And I'd like you to speak to some of our viewers who may be watching us this morning. They don't have a ram tied in their compound or a goat, and they're wondering, am I celebrating? Is my celebration acceptable?
Or complete.
Or complete, as the case may be, before God. What do you tell them?
Okay, let me start by saying that the beauty of Islam is that God will never place on you a burden that you cannot carry. The slaughtering of an animal on the day of Eid, of course, a beautiful act, but it's not compulsory for those who cannot afford it.
It's not compulsory?
It's not compulsory for those who cannot afford it. If you can afford a ram, just go to the abattoir, just buy some meat and come home, cook it for your family, and then make them happy. So it is not a must that you go out there to borrow money or you go out of your way just to get money to buy a ram. So it is not compulsory for those who cannot afford it. But for those who can afford it, if they choose not to buy it, so it becomes a sin. So, and they have to seek forgiveness from God. But if you cannot afford it, last year you could afford it, you bought one or two. God has accepted your sacrifice. So if this year things are hard, so you don't need to put yourself under unnecessary pressure by saying, I must buy because I don't want to be put to shame by my neighbors. I don't want a situation whereby my neighbors will think that this year I'm not slaughtering a ram. So that does not mean that you are no longer a Muslim. That does not mean that you are not celebrating Eid Al-Kabir. You are celebrating Eid Al-Kabir like any other person. God sees your intention. God does not deal with our appearance or most of the things that we do. Even God himself in Quran 22, God tells us that he's not interested in our rams. He's not interested in the meat of our ram, in the blood of our ram. He's only interested in our piety. So if you have the piety, if you have that belief in God, that I know that this year I can't afford a ram, but I will have wished to do so, you even get a reward from God. So it is God that will reward those who have slaughtered rams. So if your intention is, I wish I could also afford one this year, you will get a reward from God. So it is not a must that I must get a ram, or if I don't have a ram, I'm not celebrating. And it's important that we parents also educate our children, because sometimes children put pressure on their parents. that the parent of my friends have bought their rams and all that. How come my own father doesn't have a ram and all that? So by the time you educate your children and they know that, okay, this year there's no money to buy a ram, and then you train them, they will understand. But some of us, it's because we are scared of what our children will say, what our neighbors will say, and all that. But this is between you and God.
So you're not slaughtering.
It is not a competition. You are not slaughtering your ram because you want to please your neighbors or because you want to please anybody. It is God that you want to please. So if He chooses this year not to give you money to buy a ram, you don't need to put yourself under any unnecessary pressure.
You know, because one of the respondents there was saying, now the price of a ram is almost the price of a car. And, you know, some of us chuckled listening to that, but that is the reality. So now that you've said that, you know, the slaughtering is really not the cardinal part of this. It is not a competition, so do not feel bad. So maybe we should refocus then. So what is this season? What is this celebration really about?
Thank you very much. The Eid Al-Kabir festival is a festival of sacrifice. It's a commemorative festival. It reminds us of Prophet Ibrahim, known as Abraham in Christianity, what he did for God. It's a sacrifice of true love of God. A festival of true love of God. It's a festival of true faith in God. Because when you talk about Ibrahim, known as Abraham in Christianity, whether you talk about the Bible or the Quran, you see that Abraham was a true servant of God. And then he dedicated his life to serving God. And then he went through a lot of trials and tribulations, but he exercised patience. So God wants us to learn from the story of Ibrahim. So when we come together on a day such as this to say we are celebrating Eid al-Kabir, we're actually commemorating Ibrahim. We are reminding ourselves that we also need to live our lives like Prophet Ibrahim lived his life. He was patient. For a very long time, he was barren. He was childless. But he never gave up on God. So this festival is about you not giving up on God, seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, believing that there's nothing that God cannot do, not being hopeless, not being despondent, not believing that, oh, because people have said I can't do it, I cannot do it again, or I cannot make it. Believing that no matter what is happening around you, you can still make it, things can still get better for you. And it's also a festival of love. Because we slaughter rams, those of us who can afford rams, we slaughter rams, and then we share love. So it's a festival that tells us that we need to love one another, we need to show empathy to one another, we need to care about the less privileged around us, we need to show them love, and then we need to show love to the people around us, no matter where they come from, without minding whether they are this particular tribe or this particular language and all that. We show care, we show love, we show affection to the people around us. This is what this festival is about.
For me, you know, we started off by talking about how we should lead by example, and I'm just wondering if you see, you know, because we are a really religious people,
Absolutely.
You know, in this country,
Absolutely.
whether you are a
Muslim
person,
or Christian, of course.
you know, committed to Christianity or Islam. So I wonder if you see that commitment to the faith, you know, across board, beyond the profession, you know, the verbal profession of faith?
Honestly, that's a very deep question. A lot of us, even in the Quran, God tells us that there was a time that the Arabs, you know, Prophet Muhammad was an Arab. They came to him, they were saying that we were the first people to accept Islam. You should honor us more than the other tribes. You show us greater love than other tribes and all that. And God told them, keep quiet. Faith has actually not entered your heart. There is a world of difference between calling yourself a Muslim or calling yourself a Christian and living up to the true meaning of being a Muslim or the true meaning of being a Christian. So what does it mean to be a Muslim? This means being at peace with God and being at peace with the creatures of God. You show love to God and you show love to the people around you. For instance now, in Nigeria we have a situation whereby we have a lot of mosques, we have a lot of churches, but sometimes we ask ourselves, are we truly religious? Are we truly spiritual? Do we truly have a close connection, a close relationship with Allah, a very good relationship with Allah or with God? So I think we need to take our religiosity beyond the verbal pronouncement of religion, that I am a Muslim, I am a Christian. We need to take it to the level of actually showcasing what it means to be a religious person by showing love, showing affection to the people around us, our parents, our children, our neighbors, no matter who they are. So I think we need to take it beyond that level. So we are not there. Most of us are not there yet. So we see people come to you, they will tell you they are religious people and all that. Even by looking at the way they dress, you know that they are religious people. But when they relate with you, you will not like the way they are relating with you. And you begin to wonder, are you truly practicing the religion you say you are practicing? So I think we need to take our religion beyond the level of saying, I am this religion, I am that religion. We need to actually show what it means to be a religious person. We're not there yet. I need to tell you the truth.
Absolutely. And we are in a time of, difficulty. And I'm sure that our leaders have, tough options to pick from in terms of development. But what do you think is, really feasible within the context of what is available to the leaders? What should they be doing to bring Nigerians out of this difficulty that they're in right now?
Okay, by difficulty, are you talking about economic difficulty and all that?
Hardship, particularly.
Let me start by saying that leaders also need to lead by example. Just like a case of a father who is saying, my son, don't smoke, and he smokes in front of his son. So children learn by observation, not just because you've told them not to do something or to do it. Leaders also need to lead by example. We have been supporting the current president, or let me just say the current administration, with prayers, because their success is our success. If they fail, we have failed. They are our drivers. And if your driver is not okay, you should know that you are bound to probably fall into a canal and all that. So our leaders need to lead by example, and then they need to also be concerned about things that can, alleviate the current situation that, alleviate the current situation that the people are going through. Because truth be told, things are very hard. Honestly, things are very hard. But our leaders, I'm not going to tell them, I'm not a politician, I'm not going to tell them what they should do, but they can use the spirit of the season in which we are now to sit down and actually think about how they can make things better for the average Nigeria, because honestly, people are actually suffering and things are very hard.
There's this question I always ask each time we have an opportunity to discuss, religious festivities and what it means in reality. Majority of Nigerians belong to either of the major faiths.
Absolutely.
Really. And to the extent to which I listen to the preachings, the religions preach peace and love. But ironically, in reality, what you find out is we have a major challenge with insecurity, which is a direct opposite of the preachings of peace.
Absolutely.
We have a challenge with corruption, which is direct opposite of love. Because if you show love to people and justice, you will not want to cheat people or take what belongs to others.
Other people.
So it gets me wondering, is it that I don't listen to the preachings in full? Maybe the part I listen to is the only part that they preach peace and love. Maybe the other parts there's the encouragement to engage in sharp practices and all of that.
Okay.
Is that something you've thought of and you've wondered, why do we have this irony existing in the country?
Thank you very much. It's not as if religious leaders are telling their followers to be violent. Hardly will you see a Muslim preacher or a Christian preacher who will say that you should go and kill Muslims or go and kill Christians and all that. I could recall that when the Boko Haram issues were very rife, one of my former students called me then. She was running a program abroad. And then she called me, Ustaz, is it true that Islam says that Muslims should be killing non-Muslims? I said, how can Islam say that Muslims should be killing non-Muslims? Then I began to show relevant verses in the Quran. See this, where the Quran says that we should relate with non-Muslims with love. We should allow them to practice their religion, and they should also allow us to practice our religion. We should not disturb them, and they should not disturb us. They do not disturb us. Why do we need to go and force them to join our religion? Why do we need to kill them? Why do we need to make things difficult for them? It's just that humanity in us. I want you to understand that. I read the other day about a young man, in the U.S., who killed some Muslims in the name of Jesus Christ. And then I read about him that he was actually a preacher in his church. Would you now say that it was his church or his pastor who asked him to go and do what he did? It's about the humanity, that weakness in us as human beings. So sometimes we come to the mosque or we come to church to listen to our preachers. We only listen to what we want to hear. And then what we want to do is right there in our mind. So it is not about religious leaders or religious preachers telling their followers, be corrupt, be violent, be killing non-Muslims and all that. So, and it is part of the fact that people have actually not understood the true meaning of religion. I think we mentioned that earlier. So there is a world of difference between saying I am religious and actually living up to the true meaning of being a religious person. So when you go to the mosque to listen to your preacher preach to you, or you go to church to listen to your pastor preach to you, and then you come back to kill, to steal, to take what belongs to somebody else, that means the preachings of your pastor has actually not entered you or sat with you. You've actually not internalized or imbibe the preachings of your
leaders. Which is why I want you to help us put in proper context, the what the Quran states about, punishment for blasphemy, and whether Islam as a religion of peace and, sacrifice, as you are celebrating today, trumps that, or that is also a cardinal part of the religion, whereby, the religion posits, intolerance for blasphemy.
I know that recently there was an incident, I think in Sokoto and all that, a lady was killed because she was said to have blasphemed Prophet Muhammad and all that.
That was last year.
Last year, thank you very much. You see, this religion of ours is not a religion to be accepted or practiced by force. Are you getting my point now? You don't force people to accept your religion. You don't force people to accept or practice Islam. People have to accept Islam out of conviction that, okay, this is the right religion for me. If somebody chooses to renounce Islam, are you getting my point now? Probably the person has a reason to do so. In a country such as this, we are not practicing Sharia here. Even where Sharia is practiced, you will not go out there to stone the person or kill the person. Are you getting my point now? There has to be a court and a judge that will say this is what this person has done wrong. And it's not enough to say because the person has said, I'm no longer a Muslim, the next thing you do is, okay, people come around or come and stone him or come and set him ablaze because he has renounced Islam or because she has renounced Islam. So that is not it. So the issue of blasphemy, you can choose to, not to be a Muslim, but it's very wrong for you to actually go out and desecrate what some people somewhere hold very dear to them. Are you getting my point now? It's just like me as a Muslim now, going out there to say Jesus Christ is this and all that. It's very wrong. It is not everybody out there who is as educated as I am. Some will just mob you. They will lynch you. So you can practice your religion without desecrating, without disparaging another person's religion. I think what is happening in this country is you want to practice your religion, at the same time you want to show that the other person's religion.
On the Quranic punishment for blasphemy.
The Quran
and explain if that is what encourages.
The Quran does not in any way. What the Quran says is that even if you sit in a gathering where Allah or His Prophet is being blasphemed, what you should do is to leave. You leave that community, you leave that, not that you will go and call people to come and kill. There's no Quran verse. If anybody has a Quran verse that says, okay, once somebody leaves Islam, the next thing you should do is to stone the person or set him ablaze.
So those who engage in mob justice are taking laws into their hands.
They are misunderstanding Islam. They are misunderstanding Islam. They are engaging in what we call jungle justice, which is not known to Islam. So that is it. They are misunderstanding Islam. They have misunderstood the religion. So there's no verse in the Quran that says you should kill. There's no such verse. If anybody has a verse that says, okay, if somebody says, I'm no longer a Muslim, the next thing you should do is to mob that person, is to set him ablaze, the person should show me the verse. I would like to see the verse.
So the case she's referring to is the one that happened recently.
Okay.
So that's like 2 in the space of about 13 months. And, just looking through some of the, recent events too in the US, which you referenced, I didn't quite catch that one which you talk about. The one I remember was last year in New Mexico, which was done by Mohammed Said, aged 51. That was last year. And that has been taken to court.
One also happened in Canada.
In Canada?
Yes, in Canada.
I thought you meant the US.
A young man who killed a family of 5.
And you know, I'd like you to wrap up with this, because as we're very religious, you find a lot of people taking laws into their hands, going out of board. But let's maybe channel that in the right place now. In governance, what is expected of religious leaders, religious people in helping to build a nation, particularly? Because all of these preachings and teachings, I mean, a lot of people want to see it really come into place in nation building. So for the Muslim out there and, you know, listening to you, how would you encourage them to be a part of nation building, building the Nigeria which we all want to see?
It actually cut across all religions. It is not limited to Islam. Talking about Nigeria as a multi-religious and multi-ethnic nation, so we can only preach to our people out there, Muslims, Christians, even Jews, and other people that we have in the country, that this is our country. God has not made a mistake by making our country a multi-religious country or a multi-ethnic country. He could have made us a country that has just one ethnicity or one language. So what we need to do is to recognize that this is our country and we need to build it together. It is not one person that will build it. I could recall when I was doing NYC, part of what I did there was I was moving around schools, talking to young boys and young girls. This is our nation. You can't expect Indians to come and develop Nigeria. You can't expect Americans to come and develop Nigeria. It is Nigerians themselves who will develop this nation. So we need to find a way to come together. We need to just do away with our differences. This one is a Muslim. We have that problem. This one is a Muslim. This one is a Christian. This one is a Jew. It was not like this before. Growing up, it was not like this. You know, you will relate with your Christian neighbors, you relate with your Muslim neighbors. We didn't care what was your religion then. But we only care about the fact that you are a Nigerian like me. So we need to, yes, we need to come together as people and develop this nation together. And this has to start from our homes, training our children. What kind of morals are we teaching them? So we now live in a world where people just want to do it by all means. They must make it by all means, and parents are also training their children in the wrong way. Right. So we need to teach our children the wrong morals, the right morals rather, and we need to also relate with our neighbors in a way that will build love and also progress for our country.
I know it's a busy day for you, the prayers, then the slaughtering and the usual commemoration, celebration. But I'd like to thank you so much for sparing some time with us.
Thank you very much.
I forgot to ask him, by the way, how much he bought his ram.
Did you buy it for the price of a vehicle?
I'm an imam. My society gave me one. Anyway.
There you go, some of the perks. Imam Raji Abdul Ghani is a secretary, NASFAT Mission Board. He's an Islamic scholar, author, public speaker, teacher, and educationist. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we'll take a moment now. And when we return, we're back with another leg of the conversation. So please don't go away. Stay with us.